G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another crazy dose of EV and net zero insanity with MGUY EV news for Thursday the 17th of October 2024. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. So the first two stories today just show how divided and how confused and how chaotic the European car market really is in the face of this EV madness. We have two huge brands, BMW and Stellantis, completely at odds, not knowing what the hell to do. Just have a look at these stories. First story from BMW: crackdown on petrol cars will trigger massive shrinking of industry, warns BMW chief. Oliver Zipse says Europe's new green rules threaten to give Chinese car makers the upper hand. A European crackdown on petrol cars will trigger a massive shrinking of the continent's vast automotive industry, the boss of BMW has claimed. Speaking at the Paris Automotive Show, Oliver Zipse warned that new rules leading to a ban on combustion engine vehicles by 2035 would put Europe's car makers at a disadvantage compared to their Chinese rivals. His warning came as France revealed it was pushing for flexibility on European Union regulations ahead of their introduction next year. In 2023, EU leaders approved laws that effectively banned the sale of petrol and diesel cars by the end of 2035. It means the average amount of carbon dioxide emitted by new cars must fall by 15% in 2025, 55% in 2030, and 100% in 2035. Madness. But on Tuesday, Mr. Zipse claimed the regulations were no longer realistic, as demand for electric vehicles, EVs, in Europe stalls and domestic car makers lag behind their Chinese peers on cost and battery technology. He warned the rules could threaten the European automotive industry in its heart, adding that with today's assumptions, it will lead to a massive shrinking of the industry as a whole. Mr. Zipse also claimed that the rules, which he said should be relaxed, could end up benefiting Chinese manufacturers. A correction of the 100% EV target for 2035 would also afford European manufacturers less reliance on China for batteries. Well, this all makes perfect sense to me. He's absolutely right. If we force European automakers to make just EVs and nobody wants to buy EVs, then what's going to happen? They can't make petrol cars anymore. The Chinese can make EVs cheaper. They're going to set up factories in Europe anyway, so it'll get around the tariffs. And the European car manufacturers will just be sitting there with their fingers up their backsides wondering what to do. And on the other side, we have Stellantis that is saying completely the opposite, that we should be powering ahead with the EV transition as quick as possible. Automakers will find themselves in a big trap if the transition toward EVs slows down, Stellantis CEO says. Automakers will find themselves in a big trap if the industry's transition towards electric vehicles slows down, Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares said on Monday. Tavares was speaking to the Financial Times on the sidelines of the Paris Motor Show when he weighed in on the EV transition. Making a transition for EVs longer is a big trap, Tavares said. This is because automakers will have to wrestle with higher costs as they have to invest in both electric and combustion engine vehicles, Tavares told the Financial Times. When you make a longer transition, in fact, you don't replace the old world by the new one. You add up the new world to the old, he said. The European automaker owns brands like Chrysler, Fiat, Jeep, Maserati and Peugeot. It's also invested in what it calls a multi-energy platform. On social media, the company advertised this as a single chassis that can power gasoline, diesel or internal combustion engines, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, hydrogen or electric vehicles. Representatives for Tavares at Stellantis didn't immediately respond to a request for comment from Brussels Insider sent outside regular business hours. So here we have the Stellantis boss saying we need to go faster towards EVs. And the BMW boss saying, what the hell are we doing, rushing towards EVs? Like they're headless chickens, all of them. This top-down EV mandate from Europe, it's just sending the entire industry into a tailspin. It's absolutely insane. And this is perfect evidence of the chaos we're in. Stellantis is going to have to think about closing factories in the UK because they're just not profitable anymore. And this story just highlights that. Vauxhall owner to decide on fate of UK factories within weeks. Stellantis boss suggests Ellesmere Port and Luton sites still at risk amid row over net zero targets. The owner of Vauxhall will decide the fate of its UK factories within weeks amid a row over net zero targets for electric vehicle sales. Stellantis, the brand's parent company, warned in June that it would be forced to mothball plants in Ellesmere Port and Luton unless ministers relax rules forcing manufacturers to sell a certain proportion of EVs. The company, which also owns Fiat, Citroën and Peugeot, makes electric cars and vans at Ellesmere Port and vans in Luton, employing more than 1,000 workers across both sites. The EV sales targets, known as the ZEV mandate, came into force this year and require 22% of cars sold by manufacturers to be electric this year. This figure then rises annually until it reaches 80% in 2030. Car makers who fail to hit their targets are liable for fines of £15,000 for every non-EV that exceeds their quota, or must spend carbon credits that can be traded with rivals. However, Mr. Tavares claimed the regulations were forcing brands to sell double the natural amount of EVs consumers actually wanted, with the industry forced to resort to heavy discounting. He added, the government, need to help to stimulate the demand. Yes, more government money, more taxpayer money just thrown at the problem. But this just goes to show the absolute chaos that the European car manufacturing industry is in right now. And is it going to get better in the next 5-10 years? I don't think so. It is going to get worse, far, far worse. And this is all thanks to the EU's mad net zero plans, which is going to destroy the European auto industry. Mark my words. And if you think life for the auto manufacturers is bad, just spare a thought for those poor buggers that bought EVs and are now in negative equity. Electric car drivers being plunged into negative equity as prices collapse. Rapid depreciation of vehicles risk hitting forecourt profits as leases leave them exposed. Falling electric vehicle EV prices are leaving a growing number of drivers in negative equity, a top dealership chain has warned. Virtue Motors said on Wednesday that car retailers were coming under pressure from EVs coming off financing agreements were found to be worth less than the loan they are attached to. In most car finance deals, this is not a problem for drivers as, provided they have kept up with their payments, they can hand back the keys and walk away. The lender that funded the leasing deal then typically takes the financial hit. However, the issue creates a headache for dealers that often allow customers to roll over positive or negative equity into new financing deals to win repeat business. The steep drop in electric cars' value is being partly fueled by the discounts offered on new vehicles as manufacturers attempt to boost sales to hit legally binding government targets. Rob Forrester, Virtue's chief executive, said, "We all know that battery electric vehicles have depreciated at a significant rate, and that tends to feed into the creation of negative equity." If you think about when many cars were bought 2 or 3 years ago, new car prices were quite high because of supply constraints, but since then there has been a reduction in used car value. Oh dear. Well, we could see this coming, couldn't we? Let's face it. Anyone who's been watching this channel for a year on my EV videos will know that this is exactly what was going to happen, because EVs do not have any real residual value because of the battery. The battery is just a soggy bag of wet chemicals. And when that runs out, you have to replace the whole thing. It's not like buying a car, an internal combustion engine car with an engine that you just add fuel to and keep maintained. It has this thing, this bag of chemicals, which is just, as soon as you drive it out of the showroom, it's degrading. And at a rate far, far faster than, your ICE car. They'll say, oh no, but your ICE car wears, and gets old. Yes, it does. But if you maintain an ICE engine, it will keep going for many, many years, decades possibly. Well, see my MG from 1970. That's been going 50 plus years. And still going strong. Probably will go for another 50 years. But, you know, who's going to buy a battery car in even 10 years, let alone 50 years? It's absolutely insane. Oh well, they've made their bed. They will now have to lie in it. And as if to highlight this point, we're looking at how many people who've bought EVs actually want to stay with an EV the next time they come to buy a car. And a lot of them are saying, hell no, I want to go back to a combustion engine car. 34% of German EV owners returned to combustion cars in 2024. Oh, but EVs are so great. Once you've had one, you'll never go back. Yeah, right. Despite being touted as the future of transportation, electric vehicles, EVs in Germany, are facing a significant backlash, with new statistics revealing that 34% of EV owners have opted to return to combustion engine vehicles in 2024. This trend raises critical questions about the long-term viability of the EU's ambitious plan to ban all combustion engines by 2035. As dissatisfaction with electric vehicle performance mounts, the implications for the market, government policy, and environmental goals become increasingly complex. With only 2.9% of the German car market comprised of electric vehicles and a decline in interest from traditional car buyers, the shift back to gasoline and diesel vehicles highlights a growing disconnect between policy intentions and consumer experiences. Yes, it does. What a fascinating article. The thing is, when it says bans all internal combustion engines, it's only banning the sale of new internal combustion engines, which means there will be a very healthy market for used ICE cars. People would just, keep their, like I've always said, you must be sick of me saying this, but, buy a decent used internal combustion engine car, maintain it well, keep it as long as you can, and you are doing the planet more favors than by buying one of these hopeless and environment-destroying EVs, quite frankly. And people are seeing this. They're saying, right, no, I'm not having an EV. It's just not practical. It's not convenient. Going back to a car that actually does what it says it's supposed to do. Life isn't much better on two wheels as electric motorcycle company Energica is shutting down. Energica has officially confirmed the news we anticipated, which is that the electric motorcycle company has filed for bankruptcy. Again, another ridiculous idea. On Tuesday, we brought you the worrying news that Energica was possibly going bust, and that's now sadly been confirmed. According to reports in Italy earlier in the week, Energica Motors was reportedly in danger of going bust as the electric motorcycle company has already laid off employees and has narrowly avoided eviction. Emergency meetings to try and find a solution were held on Monday and Tuesday. However, a press release has been made by the company announcing its plans to file a bankruptcy judicial liquidation pursuant. An electric motorcycle supplier as well as a supplier of Moto e-bikes for several seasons, Energica has held a strong position within the racing and motorcycle sales sector, but that hasn't been able to stop the company from reaching its sad end. Given its previous success, sections of the Italian media allocated blame towards Energica's American parent company, Ideanomics. Well, again, the trouble with electric vehicles, and especially electric motorbikes, is that the energy density in a battery is just not enough to give it any decent performance. Well, might give it decent performance, but you're going to lose range. It's a trade-off. You can't have both. And charging companies are going bankrupt as well. I've said in the past in previous videos that the margins on charging stations and charging equipment is so razor thin that it's always going to be a struggle. And we've had, Tritium, which was an Australian company, going bust. And now we've got another one. Popular EV charging operator declares bankruptcy, 700 jobs lost. EVBox, a prominent manufacturer and seller of charging stations, has gone bankrupt, leaving 700 employees jobless. The Dutch company, which has provided charging stations to both businesses and private individuals, has been owned by the French energy company ENGIE since 2017. At the time of the acquisition, ENGIE reportedly paid up to 800 million euros approximately 871 million US dollars for EV Box. However, the company's fortunes have since taken a dramatic turn. Very sad for those 700 people, but it's just a symbolic of the state of the EV market in Europe in particular, and globally. China is the only place where they're mad enough to buy EVs. They're cheap and they catch fire with alarming regularity, but they keep buying millions of the things. Well, good luck to the Chinese is all I can say. The rest of the world ain't interested. Because people are not interested, car manufacturers are having to cut prices like there's no tomorrow. And, undercut it. And this, of course, leads into the catastrophic depreciation of EVs, because if you're cutting the prices of new cars, then obviously the prices of used cars are going to drop as well. So if there's no maintenance of new vehicle prices, who's going to buy a used EV? Major car brands unveil huge price cuts to electric vehicles as drivers struggle to ditch petrol and diesel. New data has found that discounts for new electric vehicles in the UK have reached an average of £5,000 as manufacturers look to help motorists switch as sales stutter. New analysis has found that the average electric vehicle receives an average of £5,006 in price reduction compared to £2,652 for a diesel or petrol car. Across the UK, battery-powered vehicles have shown a 53% year-on-year increase in discounts, while internal combustion engines have only risen by 13%. The research from JATO Dynamics suggested that the rise in popularity of new Chinese electric vehicle brands could be the reason for the widespread discounting of EVs. It noted how there had been a sluggish demand for electric cars from consumers as prices remain high and people struggle with charging solutions if they don't have a driveway. Yep, absolutely right. And one of the companies that is really got its finger on the pulse in the current market is Toyota. They've refused to go all electric. They can see the writing on the wall. They can see what's going to happen, and so they're keeping their internal combustion engine manufacturing going. They're pushing hybrids as an alternative, which are a pretty good option really, because you're not dependent on the ridiculous notion of having to charge your car. And you can still put gas in it, but you get the benefits of a little bit of extra economy from the battery and the motor. They've got their finger on the pulse. They're going to come out of this smelling of roses, unlike the European car manufacturers that are going to get flushed down the gurgler. Toyota chairman delivers cruel warning to EV owners. The Japanese automaker's figurehead is outspoken on electric vehicles. Japanese automaker Toyota is a household name known for making some of the most popular and most dependable cars out on the road. But if one thing stands out about the popular brand today, it's the company's electric vehicle offerings. While other huge automakers like General Motors, Hyundai and Kia provide a mechanical cornucopia of EVs for their customers in the United States, Toyota offers just one electric vehicle in its lineup of gas-powered and hybrid cars, the BZ4X crossover SUV. As an EV slowdown threatens much of the auto industry's plans to go electric, Toyota is reaping the benefits from a huge gamble on hybrid technology and may be inclined to keep itself there. In remarks during the unveiling of a bust of the late Toyota chairman Soichiro Toyoda at Nagoya University in Japan, current Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda, his son, warned that a hard transition to a future where EVs are the sole offering will cause devastating harm to the automotive workforce, coming full circle from the stories at the start of this video. He finds that much harm will be done to those who work on engine technologies, especially the suppliers that produce such components. There are 5.5 million people involved in the automotive industry in Japan. Among them are those who have been doing engine-related work for a long time, Toyota said. If electric vehicles simply become the only choice, including for our suppliers, those people's jobs would be lost. Toyota has long been a skeptic of electric vehicles and has argued on numerous occasions that there are multiple ways to tackle the threat of carbon emissions without sacrificing people's mobility. In a statement at a Toyota company event in January, the company argued that EVs and hydrogen power come with a set of infrastructure, pointing out that many of its customers live in parts of the world with little access to electricity. No matter how much progress BEVs make, I think they will still only have a 30% market share, said Toyota. Then the remaining 70% will be HEVs, hybrid electric vehicles, FCEVs, fuel cell electric vehicles, and hydrogen engines. And I think gas engines will definitely remain. Oh, it's like a breath of fresh air listening to him speak. He's one of the few people in the automotive industry who actually speaks sense anymore. From most of these CEOs, it's complete garbage. Well, BMW accepted. He seems to be getting the message quite clearly. But the guy at Stellantis, oh, yeah. Anyway, it's all doom and gloom in the EV world, I have to say. Yeah, I'm afraid it's only going to get worse. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.